biggest indications of emotional trauma is when a person has poor communication skills. And that could be them having poor posture when they're communicating, or a lack of eye contact when they're communicating. But more specifically, the style of communication they choose to use. So that could be them being passive when they're communicating, or being passive aggressive when they're communicating, or even aggressive when they're communicating. And these are all styles of communication that indicate that a person is emotionally unstable. So there are 4 types of communication styles. Number 1 is the passive communication style. Passive communicators are those who are, as the term suggests, passive when it comes to communicating. They are submissive, they tend to be helpless, and very agreeable when it comes to communicating in a conversation. They fear being disliked, they fear ruffling feathers, upsetting people, and being in disagreement with people because they just don't know how to handle that form of disagreement. And this type of communication style is prevalent amongst codependents and people pleasers, who tend to be indecisive and apologetic when it comes to decision making, because they don't want to upset people. They don't want to be seen as bad people and people who are inflexible, disagreeable, or rigid and unaccommodating. So the second type of communication style is passive aggressiveness. Passive aggressives are those who, when wronged, are uncomfortable or upset, respond in a way that is very ambiguous or very conflicting to what they are actually saying. So they will say one thing, but they will do something else. And this type of communication style is fueled by, well, you're supposed to know me. They expect you to read their minds. I call it the mind reader type of communication style, because they feel like you're supposed to know what they're thinking and you are not responding in the way they want you to respond. So let me act in a way that is manipulative. Let me act in a way that is insinuating, so you can understand what I'm talking about. Because after all, you're supposed to know me enough. After all, you're supposed to know what you've done to me has upset me. So a lot of it is waiting and hoping and expecting for the person who has offended them to come and apologize. They communicate that disdain to this situation by the way they act rather than by what they say. So they tend to be sarcastic, they tend to be insinuating, they tend to be manipulating, and they behave in a way that is guilt-inducing for the person who has wronged them. Their response is with action rather than with words and speaking. Passive aggressiveness and passivity, and as well as aggression, which we'll get into, all are fueled by frustration. Because the more frustrated you get, you're so frustrated, you either retreat and be passive, or you explode and be passive aggressive in your own way by being sarcastic, rolling your eyes, giving your partner or giving whoever the cold shoulder. Or with aggression, you're just exploding, you're just saying how it is, you don't want to hear anything else. You're right. An example of being passive aggressive is your partner has offended you. You don't want to tell him directly how you feel, because you feel, well, he's supposed to know me by now. And that's the magic word, supposed to. He's supposed to know what I'm feeling, and he did it intentionally, and I'm so upset. Or you're in a friendship, and I know that there's a lot of people who are in very toxic relationships with friends, where the friend won't tell them how they're feeling. The friend will just act in a way that makes them feel like, oh, there's something wrong here, but they won't verbalize it. And that toxicity will build and build and build until one person has to say, what's going on here, because things have changed. It's seen in many relationships. It builds and builds and builds until there's an explosion. It's tit for tat. You're upset with me, so I'm upset with you. I'm not telling you, you're not telling me, and we're just hurting each other. And it's all under the radar until it builds and builds and builds, and then there's just an explosion. I don't want to talk to you anymore. You've hurt my feelings. You've been doing this all this time. It's just this toxic environment. Another example is like you're in a relationship with someone, but when a partner has offended you, like I say, you think they're supposed to know you. They did it on purpose. Why did they do this? I'm going to give them the cold shoulder. I'm going to act like a child, essentially. I'm going to frown my face. I'm going to, behave in a way, insinuate that I'm upset, but I'm not actually going to use my words and say you've upset me, because I'm not doing it, because I've had enough. And I'm guilty of that. I've done that several times because I just felt so annoyed, and I'm not justifying it, but it is what it is. Coming out of that and realizing that there's different and there's better ways to speak and assert yourself. And my issue was I didn't know how to assert myself. I didn't know how to manage my emotions. So it was a lack of emotional management. So the third type of communication style is the aggressive type of communication. Aggressive communicators are those who are bossy, arrogant, intolerant, opinionated. They tend to be overbearing. They don't give you the chance to express yourself. They struggle to accept people's opinions. They're in such a rage that all they can think about is themselves. how they feel at this present moment. They're unable to validate others for having a valid opinion, because in that moment of rage, all they're thinking about is how they feel, how angry and frustrated and enraged they are, and how they need to express how frustrated they are to the other person by any means necessary. And of course, that's not the most healthy way to go about communicating your frustration. And all three of these ways, passive aggressiveness, passivity, and aggression, all lead to a breakdown in relationships. It all leads to a breakdown in relationship. You're not going to go very far when you're just so aggressive. You're not going to go so very far if you can't express to your partner, to your friend, to whoever you're in relationship with, how frustrated you are, how annoyed you are. And essentially, it's a lack of vulnerability. You don't know how to be vulnerable. You feel threatened, to be vulnerable. And I was like that as well. I felt like if I'm too vulnerable with you, if I keep telling you how I'm feeling, I'm putting myself at a deficit. I need to preserve myself. It led me down to be passive aggressive and at times aggressive, because I'm just so frustrated, I'm so enraged, and again to a lack of emotional stability, the skills to manage your emotions, to form and to be able to express yourself. In that moment of rage, you're just so annoyed, you either break down and not say anything and be passive, or you're so aggressive, or you're so passive aggressive, because that's the only way you can express yourself. The fourth type of communication style, which is the best, is assertiveness. Assertiveness is the sweet medium between all four communication styles. It's direct, it's honest, and it's accepting of other people's opinions. And it validates their opinions and how they feel. It takes responsibility off of other people to allow you to express yourself. It puts back the onus and power in your hand, and you assume responsibility. And I have to add that this type of communication style shows your level of emotional intelligence, your level of emotional ability to emotionally handle yourself. Assertive communicators say what they mean what they say, but they don't say it mean. And that's a quote I heard on a YouTube video I watched a few months ago. So they say what they mean what they say, but they don't say it mean. Because assertiveness is not just saying, well, this is how I feel, laying down the law and just however it comes. There's a level of regard and consideration of how you speak and the tone and tonality of how you speak and when you speak to a person, because there's respect. Because you first respect yourself. A person who adopts the assertive communication style is a person who has self-regard, a person who loves himself, a person who cares for himself. And I say that because for you to be assertive, it requires you to take time to think about what you want, what you don't want, what you like, what are your boundaries, what is something that you will tolerate, and what are things that you will not tolerate. And the things that you will not tolerate, then assert yourself and say, no, I don't want to do this. I've built a fortress around myself, and if you dare cross it, this is the consequence. I'm going to speak up and tell you. And that can only come when you have confidence. That confidence can only come when you love yourself. And you can only love yourself when you truly know yourself. So last week we spoke about knowing yourself as it pertains to being your authentic self. Adopting the communication style of assertiveness is what will help you to love yourself the more. Is what will help you to protect yourself and guard yourself. There's so many benefits of being assertive. Number one is that, as I alluded to, it builds self-esteem. It builds self-confidence. When you're able to say, hey, this is how I feel, this is what I want, this is what I don't want, do not speak to me like this, I don't appreciate this, you are defending yourself. And the more you defend yourself, the more you protect yourself, the more your confidence grows, the more you feel good about yourself. And that builds your self-esteem. Being assertive helps us to take control of our lives again. It takes power from the hands of external factors and puts it right back on our laps. We are in control of our feelings. We are in control of our emotions. I demonstrate that by being assertive rather than being aggressive, rather than being passive-aggressive, rather than being passive. It shows a level of confidence, and it allows you to be able to live your life in the most authentic way. Why? Because you've taken the time to know what you want, your true feelings, your true needs. What makes you feel good? What will build you up? What will make you better and push you forward in life rather than drag you back? What energies do you want in your life? How do you want to be spoken to? And how do you want to be treated? And that level of understanding and awareness of who you are will allow you to live the most authentic life. That's why, as you recover from codependency, as you recover from people pleasing, adopting the communication style of assertiveness is imperative. You have to learn how to be assertive. And as I alluded to it before, that being assertive allows you to build relationships as opposed to breaking down relationship as it pertains to passive-aggressive, being passive, being aggressive. When you adopt these styles of communication, you're breaking down relationships. Well, as it pertains to being assertive, it allows you and the other person to go back and forth in communication. They speak, you validate their opinions, you speak, they validate opinions. And even if they don't validate your opinions, you're secure enough to say, it's okay, I know what I want. I built a fortress around myself. You may be aggressive, but this is where I start, this is where I end. If you want to continue to be aggressive, if you want to continue to shout, I'm going to walk away. And that is so much power. A lot of people don't understand the power that comes from being assertive. And the moment you start becoming more assertive as a recovering codependent and as a recovering people pleaser, it's going to be an uproar. Who do you think you are? Why are you speaking to me like this? Who do you think you are? You can't have those boundaries. Yes, you can. There's going to be a pushback, but the more consistent you are, consistency breeds expectations. Consistency leads to expectations. The more consistent you are, the more they're going to be able to expect this behavior from you because you're consistent in this behavior of being assertive. And don't get me wrong, it's uncomfortable, but the more you do it, the better you become at it. As with anything, practice makes perfect. It also reduces your anxiety and your stress. The more you're able to put your verbal foot down and keep it down, the more people are going to respect you, the more they're going to take you seriously, the less they're going to try to take advantage of you, because they know that when she says yes, it's yes. When she says no, it's no, and there's no two ways about it. Because when that foot is down, it's staying down. It's not hovering over the floor, it's down. Being assertive comes with a level of conviction. Conviction that cannot be swayed, a conviction that can be manipulated. It's not malleable. The conviction that you have is not malleable. It's not, oh yeah, sometimes, so no. Don't talk to me like that. And at first it may seem a bit like, okay, this is a bit odd, this is a bit awkward, because I know that's how it felt for me. But the more you practice it and the better you become at it. Being assertive allows you to express your true feelings, your true wants, your true needs in the most clear and concise way. Or if not concise, but in a very clear way that you take ownership of what you're saying. You are convicted. You're not, I'm gonna argue. No, I know what I want and I know what I don't want. Please do not speak to me like this. Please, I don't appreciate you doing this. Please don't speak to me like that again. Simple, clear cut and done. That's it. It may seem rude and snappy, your honesty, but it doesn't have to be. You just state it. Make sure you're clear. Make sure you're not being around the bush. Make sure you're not umming and ahhing. It's not suggestive, or if you will, you're not asking for permission. You're stating what you want. And I know, coming from someone who doesn't usually state what they want, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be odd. But the more you do it, as I say, the better you become at it. So let me give you some examples of how you can be assertive. So for example, someone has wronged you at a supermarket and they have spoken really bad to you, and they treated you in a way that you do not appreciate. You've tried to ignore it, you don't want to cause a scene, and it's not you being passive, it's just you not wanting to spend your energy on things that are just unnecessary. But then it gets to a point when you feel like, I have to assert myself here because this person is taking advantage of the situation. This person is disrespecting me, and they have to know that I'm not one to be disrespected. And so you assert yourself. So how would you say it? Don't like the way you spoke to me like that. Please don't speak to me like that again. Or there's a particular member of your family who feels like they can always do whatever they want with you, and you feel like, you know what, I have to accept myself. You can simply say, please do not speak to me like that again. I do not appreciate you speaking. You have to make it very clear. Please do not speak to me like that. How you spoke to me offended me. What you just said just then offended me. I don't appreciate being spoken to like that. Please don't speak to me like that again. Clear cut and simple. It seems very straightforward, but it needs to be. What you just said offended me. I don't appreciate being spoken to like that. I don't appreciate that level. If you're playing, I mean, you may be playing, but I don't like that kind of play. Please don't speak to me like that again. I appreciate you. Thank you. Simple, clear cut, and done. I hope you guys have now understood the difference between the 4 communication styles, and that we should be more assertive and no longer being passive aggressive. I know it's something that we tend to do and it seems to be natural for us, but as we exit this lifestyle of codependency and people pleasing, we are now going to be more assertive. So join me next week where I'll be speaking about how to set our boundaries, what boundaries we should be having as recovering codependents, and how to enforce these boundaries with our family members who are not used to us, or family members, friends, those around us who are not used to seeing us in our power and reclaiming our power. So join me next week where I'll be discussing that. But in the meantime, you can follow me on IG. I will leave my handle over here and in the description box. And yeah, follow me on TikTok, and I will meet you guys here next week. Same time, same place. Have a great day, have a great week, have a great time. Watch the video again if you need to. Hit me up on IG. Let's heal from codependency, let's heal from people pleasing, and let's be the most authentic versions of ourselves. All right, see you next week.